남체 참여를 상대로 다 바꾸고 또 상징이. 다가 무슨 로 개발해다. 신이래. 무슨 로 효과다. 내년에 이다 보면. 이 소소로들이 차요. 다다가 같이 제일 말이야. 이 거기서 모르겠야. 가면이 되는야. 라 아마도 보고만 싫어요. 보고 새끼만 잡아 싫어요. 기마 다들 싫어요. 진의 요리감이 싫어요. 야. 올해 나한테 참여해. 올해 개바 코로나 처럼 잘 오말해. 문제 수능 때도 딱 봐야 왜냐고 심지 담지를 쏘 이제 봐. 제라도 뭐 제가 봐. 삼계다. 요자다 하라 되고요. 야좀 그때 되고요. 그래서 개별적으로 조제를 되는 고통 올해. 아유. 주마이 버쳐와리. 주발에 달린 것들이 같이 오래. 많이 봐서 그 많이 버쳐와. 그런데 남체 참여. 실바, 요는 다마, 가기만 싫어요.
And then the Buddha has taught that there is also no certainty regarding age when we are going to die. Some people may think that, people die when they are old, now I'm young, I will still be alive. But we cannot think like that. Many sentient beings are dying at any type of age, in young age, in old age. Some beings die already in the stomach of their mothers. Some beings die as soon as they are born. Some beings live a little bit and are dying when they are very young. So it is not sure that we will be alive until we are very old. Some people who have great merit of protecting or giving life, for example, they have a very long lifespan, and some of them may stay for 100 years or so, or even longer. That is the result of virtuous action. But many other sentient beings are suffering an untimely death. Some very few sentient beings are liberated from an untimely death. They are free from an untimely death. But many other sentient beings, they have to die earlier, before they get really old. So there is no certain time that we can know we will die. We can die as soon as we are born. We can die when we grow a little older. We can die in the middle or in the end. There is no certainty of when the time of our death has come.
내 가르쳐 걸. 또 살렸지 뭐. 어디서 본 거래. 오래. 저거는 뭐 만나 보여래. 아니 어디서 보나? 다 좋은데 마다하는 뒤에서 말할때 저와는 다르고 그랬더니 뭘 먹어서 거야. 저와도 뒤에 가르쳐 거든. 저와 뒤에 다 다르게. 저도 가르쳐 보고 또 무슨 보고서. 오래 상승 보고서. 여기와 빵 먹어도 이와 뚝 먹어도 그러나. 저와를 지금 이와 날에도 저와를 지금 이와 날에도
Chivata Larapati Tatik is humbled. And next is the contemplation on the many causes that can cause our death. When we think about what all can cause our death, there is many poison or wild animals, enemies or weapons or the four elements. We can drown in water, be burned up by fire, die in wind and earth and so forth. There's many outer circumstances that can harm our life, that can terminate our life. So we all are aware of them, we all know about them, but we need to think about them over and over again. We need to internalize them over and over again. Now, when we are thinking that, maybe that will not directly hit me, there is no benefit, because who knows what karma one has accumulated previously. We cannot know. So what we need to do is we need to prepare for our death. We need to think about our death, like Milarepa has taught. He has taught how we need to prepare for our death. Whether there is food, do not think there is food in your next life. It depends on your generosity, whether you practice generosity or not. Do not, like there is no sun and moon in your next life. It is the luminosity, the sun and the moon is the luminosity of your own awareness of Mahamudra. So this is what we need to mainly understand. we need to prepare for our death, and for that we need to cultivate love and compassion, abandoning non-virtuous actions and practicing virtuous actions. This is how we can prepare for our death, for each thought that we spend on death and impermanence, practice another virtue. So there is an infinite amount of causes or circumstances that can cause our death. There's many harmful circumstances to our life, and even a life-sustaining circumstance can be transformed into a life-terminating circumstance. For example, eating food. Eating food is generally a life-sustaining circumstance, but if the food is not suiting our body, it can also transform into a life-terminating circumstance. So therefore, there are very many circumstances that can cause our death, and there are very little circumstances that sustain our life. This human incarnation is very precious, but also it can be harmed very easily. There are many circumstances that can harm that precious human incarnation. So there are many circumstances that can cause our death, and there are very little circumstances that sustain our life. There are very many examples on this in the scriptures that I give you now a short introduction to. It is, in the best case, you would look yourself in the books, in the texts, and read those illustrations. Just recently, I had an interview, and that person asked me questions about what the person has read in the words of my perfect teacher to clarify. I have read this, so can you clarify that? So that is very helpful if one is reading oneself in those scriptures.
우리 세트에서 오래 잘 이만게 있게요. 이 양당 양주 비인 거 모르겠어요.
And then we contemplate the impermanence of holy beings, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that have appeared, that have taken on a human form. They all have had to pass into parinirvana. They all had to die. Even our Buddha Shakyamuni, he also passed into parinirvana. Great accomplished masters and great scholars, all of them have died. Milarepa has left his body. So observing this, we should think, this is really impermanence. Then very powerful, very strong beings, all of them have died, even if they have been as powerful as a Chakravartin king, a universal monarch. Also, that one has to die. This life has to be terminated. There has never ever been a single being who has not have to die. So when we contemplate that, we should gain certainty in our mind that impermanence is it is really true, and it is something that we need to contemplate again and again.
우리 자제 제 단계마다 강연을 꼭이 르디 앞에는 꼭 용화 예디가 위장 세미가 제 마보죠. 공부하라고 그랬는데 저기 마보 이제 이쪽으로 이쪽 맞춰가지고 원래 식도요가 원래 단계마다 봐. 내가 뒤에 따따따 앞에는 또 이거 돌아지는 거야. 따따따 펜솔을 라마데위 신이 나자, 정말 나자, 고바바 정답이 나자, 부모이 나자, 제라도 tanto 이거 도와지 있네요. 제라 예상게 다음은 딱와이 이바이 다음 제가 오서 좀 이거 우리 sambil 로디나 다음 다발라 딱발지나 제 담지 못하고 마시나 나는 이거 마셔봐도 보고 있으면 저리로 오르지 이 마시가 내가 와서 하하 보고니 나도 제가 저도 제가는 저기 동행이 정도 그래 별로 못하고 돈이 싫어 당연히 별로 이제 담지 못하고 나지 감에서 이게 마음에 맞죠 오래서 여기다 가슴 삽질, 가슴 졌다고 그러거나, 내가 마음마다 70, 저 1900으로 봐도, 인가의 리, 기진이요, 말이에요. 대미가 강해지, 가봐도 이마저 매서도 고보다 말해서, 동이, 내가 요즘, 동이 치고라요, 말이에요. 다 말이 하고 그러나. 빼지도 뭐다 말이 싫은, 내가 뭐 피받치고, 이렇게. 마치는 동네 쪽으로 몰라.
So the Buddhas also and all compounded phenomena are impermanent. Our body that is composed of the four elements, which has a temporary connection to the mind, it is disintegrating, it is dissolving, it is in the nature of impermanence. If one of those components starts missing, it immediately will disintegrate. So it is in the nature of impermanence. And then also outer circumstances like our friends, even our own teacher, our own Lama, monks, families, all males and females, we grasp at them to have some permanence. Like when we have a partner, we will think, we will stay together for the rest of our life. We grasp at it to be something permanent. that is just a grasping of impermanent things to be permanent, thinking that, we will be together until the time we die. But then one day, through the power of karma, some outer circumstance strike us, and that separate us, and that transforms into anger, and then that transforms into great suffering. So, if you have an understanding, then you know that all compounded phenomena are impermanent, their nature is impermanent, and where do they arise from? They arise from own actions, the working of karma, cause and effect, which is infallible. Whatever it may be, our own surroundings and houses, we should not have any doubt or any hesitation, question whether they are staying permanent or not, because it will disintegrate, it will go out of existence. That is the nature of impermanence. When we have an understanding of that, then that will also give us temporary great benefit, because if we do not have an understanding of that, it can create a lot of suffering.
때려뜨리는 사제 정책이 저는 것도 앞서는 것 같고 싸고 타봐 내는 방내잖아 따사하면서 다른 공시와 그래서 연말에는 배차 같아서 그리고 배차 같아서 철싹바지라 철싹바지 보면 쭉 통하지 야 소위 너는 세븐 집 장가 단지 딱딱 이거래 얘도 이제 나한테 제tam 교육과 대tam의 내리 잘하지 나한테 싶어서 다 재밌게 이제 나한테 이제 오나 야 나한테 좀 이제 다 말해 좀 말 배자 제tam이 요래되고 이게 막 신은 거사요 말해 그 내가 문제 가지고 한 사고 잡아 공부해서 비슷하게 되고 오래 또 오래 상태나 오래 나한테 총나 내가 이거 양도 넣어요 그래 때는 강과되나 강과되다고 해서 강과된 나한테 땅아니야 뭐 자기가 매가는 내 빈이잖아 니마저가 본인 똑바로 총이 강과되는 내가 뭐지 치시 나와요 말이야 내가 뭐지 하고 말이야 마다고 하고 소망 측정 때문에 내면 야 다가 강과되는 대요 많이 똑바로 이제 다다마다 치시 제tam이 이런 말 대tam들이 다가 똑바로 오래 방금 사도 참고 수바고 편진 전부 되는 제tam만도 오늘 미자고지 교남자보지 되고야 아니 신은 정말 와서 소배 생각보지 되는 거예요 이 정도 말이에요 여기서 봐서 뭐지 좀 내우나 이마저를 가까워놓고 얘들이 다 말해 동해요 말이에요 다음에 봐시면 다들 가까워 나한테 대해서 샤이게 말하는 동해 사람들이 잡아 난 누구요 마다 봐도 싫어 나가야 되겠다 그래봐야 친구 너래 그래서 이제 가만 다른 거 저도 가만히 들어가는 거 말이야 이것도 내가 하나서 이제 내 도시 봐 나와요 말이야
So as the Buddhas have always taught us in terms of practice, the more we accumulate, the more we are wishing for. However much money we are, for example, accumulating, be it $10, $100, $1,000, and so forth, we are fixated on that number of the money. We have a very strong grasping to its reality. Somebody who has less grasping to a self, for example, would understand that all phenomena are impermanent, that right now I might possess some money, but when I die, who knows what will happen. It should happen for the benefit of others, give it to other sentient beings, it should be distributed, and used in a good way. This is for somebody who has not a very strong self-grasping. For somebody who has a very strong self-grasping and does not understand impermanence, he might say, living in a house and sharing that house with somebody, for example, he would say, oh, this is my house and I live in this house, and one day maybe those two parties get into an argument and they start fighting. So who knows whether we will always stay here where we are. There's really no independence. It is in the nature of impermanence. And if somebody who has an understanding of that, that knows, oh, right now we are living together in this house and we are our friends, but who knows what will happen. Right now it is best not to get into any arguments and to practice bodhicitta and patience, not getting angry at each other, conducting oneself well. And when we then have to die, when our death has come, then we know that having a good heart, we will not fall into the lower realms. We have an understanding that the day of separation will come and it will be fine because we had an understanding of impermanence. For somebody who does not have an understanding of impermanence, and when separation has come, that person has to undergo inexpressible suffering from that separation. So it is now for us a really great benefit, even temporarily, to have an understanding that everything will come to a separation. We will separate from our friends and families and houses, and we will separate from everything. Everything is in the nature of impermanence. It is karma that is principle, and over that we have no independence.
노는지보다 봐도 강성이잖아. 세리도 거기서 차는 기인을 빼라. 자기 집어대 열에 빼라. 자기 집어대 하면은 힘받고 없어. 힘받고 없고 타고. 강에 채들어 차라. 채들어 기는 주가 민소. 오, 채들 보면 대화 타지. 기는 빼나 대화 시민들은 다 무슨 나서 용을 당시에는 소식 너무 멋졌지. 나다 은혜인지 말해. 이거 좀 너무 많이 소리 지금 처음 잡더니 나도 집 앞에 가서 딱 때는 차를 이렇게 소리를 소소 잡고요. 야, 지금 다 받아서 다음에 용을 갖다 있나야? 네, 지요 말해. 마음과 예받아 들다. 마음과 예받아다 차 대상은 소소지 저는 위치도 없고 착바시만 매와 차는 거. 내가 집 봐요, 나라. 저거지 좀 나서 이거 메도다. 약간 메도데 다다 오네요. 산 남기 잘못 잘 거기 오면 메도. 이거 차서 되는 메도 메도 잡아는 이거만 메도 잡아나서 이거 차. 제가 소수를 소소 잡아. 제가 놀러고 당겨서 다 오네요. 나봐요. 좀 챙기 좀 맞춰야 돼요. 나봐요. 놀러고 요런데 너무 좋아. 저까지 밤에 내 밤에 가서 나서는 유밤에요. 진짜 이게 다 세리도 되게 싸고 당다 거래. 마다 봐 집에 용기다 맞지. 저는 되는 거구나. 마다 봐 위를 지나 등에 오나. 마다 봐 위를 맞지. 등에 치고 그래. 그래서 하고 제일 잡다 받는 만 보시나. 될 필요도 없어 하고 와.
So in brief, where does impermanence arise from? We are getting attached, our minds are getting attached to samsara. We have a strong grasping. We are holding on to happinesses, to bliss and happiness in samsara. For example, we are getting attached to our own body. I'm looking in the mirror and then I'm seeing my own face and think, I'm so beautiful and so attractive. There is no one more beautiful than me. So we get very attached and very arrogant about our own appearance. So that is being attached to one's own body. But having an understanding of impermanence, one would think, oh, this is impermanent, this is in the nature of change. I can see now around me older people, also I will grow old, also I will lose my beauty, I will become just a normal, an old person. So that is a method to decrease the attachment that we have to ourselves. We need to have trust and build a strong conviction that it is in the nature of impermanence, and that will decrease our attachment. And Jigten Sungen has said the most beautiful summer flower will wither and grow old in the winter as the weather grows cold. So a young and beautiful flower will grow old and it will wither later on. So therefore there is no need to get attached to one's body. Or secondly, getting attached to one's possessions. Keep in mind that it is in the nature of change and it is impermanent. We may now have the opportunity to enjoy our possessions, but we shouldn't get attached to them, we shouldn't long for them. It is alright to enjoy them, but it also must be okay to lose them. That is the qualities of having internalized impermanence. When one has not internalized impermanence in one's mind, then one will experience great suffering. But if one has internalized impermanence in one's mind, then one will not have to undergo those sufferings. So it is a great thing that there is a great benefit in contemplating impermanence.
똑같이 뒤에서 보고 썩는 때다. 좋은 눈이 잘와 도자나. 보고 손들이 바카 잡아는 통나. 니네 동생이 좀 모르다.
그래다.
니도 또 친구 나니 대화요야. 아, 체랑마도 보고야. 체랑 나와도 보고야. 아, 체랑마도 보고 버리다. 이 개참만 보려고 해라. 내님 담으라. 니도 작자자로 파카를 쳤대라고 그래. 그럴 때는 야, 내가로 소리나. 내가 문제 내장 찾지 지내서 내가 써는 때는 소속으로 나와서 정말이야. 토마 이놈마다 와시노. 아니 내가 또 뭐래. 좀 잘, 내가 이거 못 봤지. 최고 주제 나와요 말이야. 아들님마다 봐요. 님이 내가요 하고 말이야. 참 저도 못 봤었다고 좋았지나. 님만 저를 가봤습니다. 얘가 인상을 봐. 대만이나 로 뼈다 또만 있었다면 그냥 뭘 대니까 덮고 두고 안 보여요. 여는 빨리 마셔서 가거나. 때와 제담 요구하지. 제담은 저기 근데 다른 소를 좀 이때는 딱 때와 제담을 소소 나는 자리 상태와 근데 잘 동네다 동네 그 토가 좀 내잖아. 저기 동네 당고 대와 지고 있는 거 같은 저 동네니까 거기로 했으나 인상 아니야 요 말에 제일 sempre 끼끼끼는 저쪽으로 요래 내가 또 봐 마음도 또 봐, 이만 끼리래 또 봐, 해지만 보는 저쪽으로 요래 이 내용들 박사한테 가면 저쪽으로 요래 이치요 말에 싸움잖아 이치 매네야 이치 요사 깨깔 찌와 앞에 저 찌와 요 봐도 찌와니 찌와 요네 찌와 기타도 쉽게 탐지를 보고 저도 뭐야 쉽게 탐지도 보고 해봐요 양도 내놔야 찌와요 양도 맞아야 찌와는 아무리 싸우는 거 찌와들라 이거 봐고 홀로 찌와지나 다 조금 또 잡고 得力早上嘛，没大关系呢。 니 여기 좀 그리고 말아. 대마시라. 또 론치다 나도 대바지. 대바지다 고소를 좀 나도 여기 좀 그리고 말아. 지금은 싸움이야 보통 그래. 당시 심한 보러가. 오, 그게 뭐 나도 제일 이제 가가 좀 돼. 고소를 좀 그리고 그래. 얘가 나와도 진짜 막 나와서 이거 좀 뭐래요. 내가 앞으로 싸우다가 아빠의 그거 시스템안에 고소라서 봐. 대학에 올라와니까 내일이 있었던 직접 고소로 가봐. 내가 앞으로 또 진짜들이야. 제일 못 싸우는 거 해야지.
Also, Thigten Sumgön has said that everybody who meets will separate at some point. So we meet with somebody who we have great love for, and we say, "Now I only love you," and that person says, "And I only love you." So we receive the answer that we are. We say to that person, and then we receive the corresponding answer in return. So even though we say that, even though we say we are staying together forever and we love each other, still we have no power, no impermanence over the nature of change. Still it is temporary, and we do not know when the outer circumstances will arise and our previous karmas that we have accumulated will arise and will change everything. So we need to understand that even those are just temporary, those relations, they are just temporary occurrences, circumstances. We have no power, no independence over its change. When the karma has come, it will change, and we do not know our past karmas. But one day, the day of separation will come. Even if we're staying together with our partner for 10, 15 years and we have children together, still when the karma has come, the day of separation has come. And then when we have no understanding of that, then love will transform into anger, and that will bring about great suffering, and the other person will become even worse than our worst enemy to us. It will transform into great suffering. First we experience bliss and happiness, then we experience the suffering of change when that is suddenly transforming into anger and hatred, and then we are experiencing the suffering of suffering. So we need to understand that our loving mind is changing from moment to moment. The mind of the past and until the mind of the future is constantly changing in every moment. It never is the same. Our karmas, our imprints, they are in the nature of change. So we need to have confidence in the fact of everything being in the nature of change, and the only thing that we need to practice is true, sincere love towards other sentient beings. Love is something that every sentient being needs, and we all have been our friends and our dear ones in some other life. So therefore, we need to cultivate the cause, which is bodhicitta, love, compassion, concern for each other. Then it will not transform into a cause of suffering. But if we do not have an understanding of that, if we cannot cultivate unconditioned love for sentient beings, then it will transform through the nature of change into anger and will become the cause of great suffering. So I would like you to consider this very well. We need to understand that whoever we meet, we will have to separate from. It is the nature of karma, and we have no independence over it. So consider this, and it will be of great benefit for this life and for our future lives to come. Consider that everything is under the law of karma, and we have no independence over what will happen to us. So therefore there is no need of giving rise to aggression and anger. Cultivate a good heart, and that will be a great benefit for the next life. So now that we have obtained a precious human incarnation with its 18 freedoms and advantages, it is very good explained in the 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas, where it says in the beginning, now having obtained this very difficult to obtain precious human incarnation endowed with all its freedom and advantages, use it to practice continuously day and night, because that precious human incarnation is the very cause to actualize Buddhahood, to gain enlightenment. Now, temporarily, our mind is connected to this body, temporarily that mind is connected to the body, and that human precious incarnation serves as the cause for actualizing Buddhahood. Now that body that we have, it is called the illusory body. It is consisting of the 5 elements of the 5 elements, and when we are transforming that, looking at its true nature, we realize that these 5 elements are in the nature of the 5 goddesses. Also, our 5 afflictive emotions are actually in their true nature the 5 primordial wisdoms. If one understands that, one will perceive all forms to be divine. Now, we have our illusory body, which is our cause for establishing or bringing about the Nirmanakaya. Outwardly, it seems that we are consisting of the elements of flesh and blood and bones and air and so forth. In their true nature, though, they are the 5 goddesses. We have Buddhahood established on our ground, but it is just like a flower that has not blossomed yet. So it is our body which is in its immature state, or in the immature state. If the body is in its mature state, if it has fully ripened, it is in its true nature, the Nirmanakaya. Its true nature is pure. Temporarily, the body, our whole being, is impure. Temporarily, we are defiled and we are afflicted. We have afflictive emotions. In its mature state, it is the Buddha. In its immature state, it is a sentient being. Just like an apple that is ripe or an apple that is unripe. An unripe apple nobody would eat. You would just throw it away, just like falling into the lower realms. This unripeness makes us fall into the lower realms. Now we need to use this human incarnation to train in methods that ripen ourselves. So we are ripening our body through the generation stage yoga. We are ripening our speech through the recitation of mantra, and we are ripening our mind through bodhicitta, love and compassion. That's why we have said you need to practice day and night. You need to apply yourself to practice at all times. Even when you go to sleep, remember the hidden deity, recite the Mani mantra. Day and night, use it to practice remembering death and impermanence. Having obtained a human incarnation which is very precious, and being aware that this human incarnation is in the nature of change, impermanent, it will die. There's a great need to practice immediately, to practice swiftly.
명은 내 밤에 봐 용서 보이고 왕은 된다서 반도를 근데 반도를 사니들 시를 가거든요. 나한테 뭐라고서 나서 봤으면 시마다 내 밤에 봐 매형들이 시완 무슨 반도로 두고는 나그 플라이랑 지르는 나와샤는 반도를 또 왕고 타마 아니 저 지완이 비거야. 사족성 뭐지 비인이 아마 소화돼. 전지 뭐야래야 지완이 비어. 왕고 타마 지완이야. 소 능들이
니소
니소 능다. 아무 줄
And if one is a practitioner, in the best case, one will gain liberation in this very lifetime through cultivation of bodhicitta in one's mind stream and defeat of all defilements, afflictive emotions. In the middling case, a middling practitioner would gain liberation in the pardo after death has come. We usually lose our consciousness completely, and in that state, when one wakes up in the bardo, that person would recognize the deity as visualized in the generation stage. The deity would appear and the person would gain liberation. And in the worst case, a practitioner would again take rebirth, take another body, but in the following life would encounter the holy Dharma and would remember the precious bodhicitta. And then there are many different ways here she can gain enlightenment, either within 2 lives, 3 lives, or 7 lives.
제가 보라 제대로 보아들라 사자집을 공소구나. 이 노디처럼 못 먹고 노디처럼 못 먹고 세들은 철 끼와가 파쇼하면 끼셔면 공도 불러요. 저 안에 뭐 하고 오늘 육만도 좀 저 안에 벌리면 좀 그러나 제가 와면 그래도 물론이야. 제가 왕보라 사자집을 공소 제대로 나왔어. 왕은 다돌 보고 제가 다다는 속에 사회 담력이 제가 이러면서 일이 잘 오구나. 사회 말이지 다돌 보시더니 그러나 이 말하면서 이 투구를 썼으나 이 다돌이 제가 매화서 나오는지 최신 투구를 써 바로 담보니 이 상장이 대표로서 담고 파이 그 제가 내가 자고 저기 세마다 따오는 거 세와 공자로 생각된 그 진실들이 걱정하더니 저 세마다 진실을 세워와 이 세마다 나도 이제 다 맞고 봐 나는 진실 봐요 하는 책구나 해야 되니 바로 방법을 보는데 왕을 안 보상해서 오라 모든 거
Tiang Wang Borapre, Tiang Wang Borapre, the dream man. Wang Buddin yo man, Wang Buddin, Wang Borapre, Wang Borapre.
우리 다다양이 그 나도 이제 죽을 상태에서 왕을 안 보상해 세들 거 왔다 이 바로 다 보는 거.
So for those of highest mental faculty, in the best case, for those practitioners who realize the profound meaning of Mahamudra in this life, attain the state of Vajradhara, they have realized the meaning of the non-existence of birth and death. They have understood non-death, and they will gain liberation either in this lifetime or in the first pardo, the first state of pardo, that is when, just like when one is falling asleep and waking up instantly through constant mindful awareness, and the Yidam deity that one has practiced will appear to one in that instant, because there has been an uninterrupted stream of mindful awareness. So these will realize the Dharmakaya, actualize Buddhahood in the first pardo. So if one is of highest mental faculty, one will either gain enlightenment in this very life or in the first state of pardo. And then for the people or practitioners with mediocre mental faculties, they recognize first they fall in an unconscious state, like falling asleep, and then immediately again it's like waking up and concepts are arising, and in that second moment that person thinks of practice and recalls the visualization of the Yidam deity, like has been visualized from a picture, like a tanka, the form of the deity arises. So in the same way, when we are remembering in that state of the pardo, when we can remember the Yidam deity in that state, and when it arises, just like we have visualized it in our generation stage yoga practice, then a consciousness will be transferred into a pure realm. So depending on generation stage yoga practice and bodhicitta, a practitioner of mediocre mental faculties will gain enlightenment in the pardo state. So if we are well prepared, then even if I were to die tomorrow, I would have no fear. Just like Milarepa has taught, if we are well prepared, there's no fear, there's no need of fear. So therefore, remember death over and over again. Remind yourself through reading the verse in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, where it says that do not get attached to any of your wealth or your possessions, your body and your house and so forth, because your consciousness will just leave the guest house of the body. There is no essence to holding on to this life. So therefore, contemplate death and impermanence. And I would like you to think about that there is really no essence to be found in our body, in our houses, in our possessions. We are not our body. So consider this well. And for this evening, we will stop here. It is important that you study them very well and that you reflect, ponder and meditate over them. If it is a Buddhist practice, a Buddhist Dharma practice, it needs to have 3 criteria complete. First of all, we need to listen to the teachings. That is like having a fruit, and we first hear this fruit. When you eat this fruit, it tastes very good, and also it is very good for your body. So first you hear that, and then secondly, one needs to experience it. One actually needs to eat the fruit and experience its taste, and then you think, oh, it's true, it is really tasty. And then in the end, as a third point, one needs to realize the true benefit of the fruit. Then you have trust, your faith that this fruit actually is a great benefit for your body. In the same way, through these 3 steps, we are realizing the meaning of Dharma. We first need to hear about it, then we need to experience it, and in the end we need to realize it. We need to have those 3 features complete as practitioners. If one only gets a little taste of it and does not continuously ponder over it, one will not realize the true nature of samsara. Now we are contemplating the suffering ocean of samsara. It is truly indeed not a happy state, and we need to ponder over this over and over again until we have realized that samsara truly is not a happy state, and as a result we have gained conviction and the realization in that fact. So today we will cover the point karma, cause and effect. The very root of Buddhist teachings, is the two truths. It is the conventional truth, which is an understanding of the incontrovertibility of karma, cause and effect. And secondly, it is the ultimate truth, which is the realization of emptiness. First and foremost, one needs to realize the conventional truth. One needs to realize how karma works. If one does not realize that first of all, then there is no way one can realize ultimate truth or emptiness. So depending on an understanding of karma, one realizes ultimately emptiness. And if one has realized emptiness, then one has gained the state of enlightenment. Therefore, in the beginning, in order to come to that state, we first need to train in conventional truth, that is, an understanding of the workings of karma, cause and effect.
Lula 찾아는 지금 동의 미화다다 룰 공수 부동 조사도 이거나야 난 샘지라 동의 아 다다를 찾아서 보지 오 lula 나사요 말이 너무 이거 반대로 요리 참아 이거지 양 세거든요 아난 타고 도착 제단 맞지 타고 되는데 서로 유명해서 담아 원래 나사 카카고 원래 다음 주에 좀 나서 찍고 같은 난 샘졌던 거예요. 그래서 저렇게
아멘.
오, 이게 신고로 또 제보를 보고 못하지. 유머 보고 하면 난 샘졌던 거예요. 그래서 다 나타나는 갑자 즐거운 것도 민주주의 그거예요. 근데 가시에는 됐다고. 해당적으로 보는 선 세상도 차보고는 나는 물도 못이다. 나는 안 돼. 얘도 남생이 되면도 봐. 오래 설르는 하는 남생이 되면서 오래
The Buddha has said that all the sentient beings inhabiting the 6 types of transmigration, their source, their nature is in the nature of suffering. We are experiencing various types of suffering. Let's only take a human incarnation. Even in a human incarnation, we are experiencing great sufferings. We are mainly experiencing the suffering of birth, old age, illness, and death. We also experience physical sufferings like heat, cold, hunger and thirst. Or even if we are rich and even if we have everything that we need physically, we are suffering mentally. Some people may be very rich and they may have everything in the physical realm, but still inside their minds they are experiencing mental afflictions. And they are suffering. They have the mental afflictions of attachment and aversion, jealousy, pride, ignorance. They are constantly suffering from those mental afflictions. And even though we may possess all the wealth, still couples split apart. People who are very rich commit suicide. They all come from our mind, from our own afflictive emotions. Like when we are having a physical illness, for example, then we can get an injection or some treatment. But now having that mental illness, like being very angry and being very jealous, really we ourselves are destroying our precious human incarnation. So that is to say that even though we may have all physical abundance, still inside mentally we are suffering. So all our sentient beings, we are engaging in great efforts to bring about happiness. We are very diligent, and we try very hard to make it as comfortable and as happy as possible in this lifetime. But even though we are striving for that aim, without any independence, without any choice, suffering will strike us. It will just happen. We will experience hardships and difficulties without any independence, without choice. Either we will be harmed from the outside through the elements, or from the inside through our own afflictive emotions, attachment, aversion, ignorance, those which lead to quarreling and fighting. So we are experiencing inconceivable suffering. No one knows the causes for those suffering. They happen. So we are having suffering saying, oh, I suffer because I don't have enough money, or I suffer because I don't have children, or I suffer because I don't have a wife, or I suffer because I don't have a husband. So there's many different sufferings that we have to undergo through. But we need to understand that in the end, there's only one suffering. It is something that we do not want. It is that unattractive thing that we try to keep away from us. So there is, in fact, only one ultimate suffering. So for example, if there is a few people that we are seeing from the outside, we cannot see that those people suffering. That is inside the mind of the person. From the outside it may seem the person has everything, has food and so forth, but in the inside, who knows whether that person is happy or whether that person is suffering? We cannot know it. Yesterday we have discussed the infinite amount of sentient beings that are existing throughout the 6 types of transmigration. There are as many sentient beings as there are particles of dust. They are all over, they are all pervasive. And there is an infinite amount of suffering. But the Buddha, who is all-knowing, has said in the root there is only one cause for that suffering, and that is said very clearly in the 37 practices. All suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So the root of all our suffering is self-clinging. So the Buddha has known that the root of all our suffering is our self-grasping attitude.
마스로 셉지 탐지 사지 종지들 보면 셉지 남도 상지 셉지 탐지 셉지 좀 뭐지 상지 네 이해나야 나디다 저처럼 또 저는 자롭다고 차네 오딱 나디게 맞아라 이 루이들이 자동 주변 싫어요. 루시아를 셈셔도 그래요 말. 셈셔는 나디도 마셔나. 오, 이거 나디가 내 자다서 루시했다고. 노아를 가능. 콜마 이렇게 모두 콜로를 딱 콜거도 올. 이 콜로지 콜로 진짜 슬로로 같이야요 말이야. 콜로 잡고 치는 거. 이거 콜로 따와서 나디가 더 맞잖아. 셈도 상지에 이놈. 그래, 동의 용어로 했잖아.
And the Buddha has said that all sentient beings do possess Buddha nature, Buddha essence. On their basis, on their minds, they are the Buddha. But for as long as they are not separated from self-grasping, they are just like wandering about in the 6 types of existence over and over again. As long as we are not separated ourselves from self-grasping, our bodies may die over and over again, but our mind, the consciousness, is not dying. So until we have eliminated our self-grasping, we are accumulating actions depending on self-grasping, and depending on those actions, we are wandering about in the 6 types of transmigration over and over again, like a wheel that is of a car that is constantly turning. So this ocean of samsara is indeed vast, and its root is self-grasping. If we separate ourselves from self-grasping, then our mind is the Buddha. But if we do not separate ourselves from self-grasping, then we have to experience suffering.
Tapi dunia itu kaya ke bebat kok, tahu daging macam bebat orang yang mana, tapi cocok ni lah, macam pada yore, oleh ni konde kaya nak pun cocok kaya mesti lah, soal kanan jauh, saja ini juga kanan jauh oleh, tapi cuma cakap ini macam lah, dia pun cakap macam tak ada jauh cakap, tapi aku macam tu sedang lah, ya. 这个查到了，或者这种而且嘛都他从这个电影来切的什么的，他那么说也看不把这个用不了的呀，好嘞，那那面这个用不了的，就查写的，拿了查，拿了都有，知道吧？我第二天哪里的有是哪里的了，买吧，怎么？ 내 말을 갖다가 가려야 돼. 소주 셈 되지 이거지. 내로 남이 마시. 셈 나가다가 마시네. 나 서버들이 자공다 그래. 원래 저희는 자공다 그래. 농동 차고. 예를 들면 나도 하루도 다 밀랑 그래. 그 머리들 남산 다시 다 차. 나도 배 자지고 나가 뉴고. 나가 가라고 보고서. 나 차니 때마다 딱 이거 장. 어떤 보고서도 저한테 싸움도 고치 못해요. 차장은 아니겠어. 제가 도차 해당 아직 차도 계속 마찬가지로 계속 강의서 말해봐. 나오고 나봐 안 되겠지 이렇게.
This morning, some children were asking me questions, and they were asking really very nice, meaningful questions. One question was, when I get a present, when another child gets a present that I would like to have, then sometimes I get angry because I didn't get what I wanted, and the other child has it. So how can I overcome this anger? So that was the question asked. And the answer was that as long as we have, so first of all, that is self-grasping, that we want something for ourselves. And for as long as we have not rid ourselves from self-grasping, there is no end to suffering. It is this thinking of, this is mine, or I need something, I want food, or I want a present, I want to get something. That is the attachment. Then if we don't get what we want, then we get angry. And then when we see that somebody else has what we wanted, then we get jealous. So those small children were, now first it starts when we are really small children, and then that continues as we grow older. And that is why when we grow older, wars are happening, and why countries start fighting with each other. First there is attachment, then there is anger, and then there is jealousy. One is attached to the self. One thinks, I need something for myself. And that self-grasping has its roots in ignorance. It all comes from ignorance. It comes from not recognizing the true nature of one's mind, not recognizing one's own Buddha nature, which abides just like the space, just like the sky. Not recognizing it, we are attached to a self that makes our mind become very tense, like an ice block, like water that is frozen. Our mind becomes very solid and very hard, and from that self-grasping. And depending on that, we over and over again take an incarnation in the 6 types of transmigration. Now we have taken a human incarnation, and we are attached to that self. We think I need food, and I need clothes, and I need all types of things. We are attached to the self, and if we are attached to the self, we have an aversion against others. So these small children were asking something very meaningful, really. Because we are attached to ourselves, we have attachment to things that we want, we have anger, and then we experience jealousy. So where do these 3 poisons come from? They come from ignorance, which is the concept, the thought of self.
제르디니 따사지 동네들이 어래 그렇다고 생긴 잡채게 너무 봐 나한테 저기 왔다 거기 그 가면 뭐지가 나한테는 뭐지가 나한테 저거 찍자면 너무 봐 저거 찍자면 거기가 맞아 뭐지라 너 차요 제단 거 또뭐 놓은 거 같은 거 같은 지와는 자기가 또 많이 참아요 이거 맞다 어래 내 말이 속 내라는 나한테는 맞잖아 이모 아 참아요 제 요구하더니 속 요자 내자 그 관리 우리 너무나 답니다 용 너무 괜찮답니다 나중에 맞아요 너무 괜찮고요 말이에요
So also the Buddha has said that the sentient beings who all have strong self-grasping, what they want is happiness, and they are trying very hard to bring about their happiness. They are striving for their happiness. But even though they want to achieve happiness, they are ignorant of the causes that bring about happiness. The causes that bring about happiness are positive actions, virtuous actions. And even though no sentient beings wants to suffer, they do not know the causes to abandon their suffering. They think it is alright to harm others for one's own purpose. It is okay if I harm others if my purpose is accomplished. So they think that this will bring about their happiness. So they are ignorant of the causes that bring about happiness and the causes that bring about suffering. So even though they want to be happy, they are only creating more causes for their suffering. Now we can see the infinite amount of sentient beings that are inhabiting the lower realms. The very cause of being in the lower realms are those wrong strivings, and we see how little beings compared to lower realms are inhabiting the higher realms. That is because very little beings are engaging in virtuous actions. Very little beings actually are aware of the causes that bring about happiness. The Buddha has said there is an infinite amount of beings in the 6 types of transmigration, and they are afflicted. They have self-grasping, but its root, there is only one self-grasping. The Buddha has said the self-grasping of all sentient beings is one and the same. The self-grasping of a little insect and the self-grasping of a human being is one and the same. The afflictive emotions of them are one and the same. The little insect has self-grasping, it has attachment and anger and ignorance, and depending on strong ignorance it took rebirth as an insect. But all of the beings do possess the 5 afflictive emotions. So the afflictive emotions of all sentient beings are the same. And even beings who do not possess a body, who do not have a form, they still do have self-grasping, and they still have the afflictive emotions. So whether we are beings with body or without a body, and particle beings and so forth, we are experiencing great suffering. And for as long as we have not eliminated self-grasping, we have to experience suffering.
대라티가 다 산지 종류들이 먹고는 하다서 네 고아를 좀 쳤지 넘어지는 데나 마마 집에 다들 흘러지 마마 집에 다들 흘러지 정말 다다 레즈레지 시소나 다다 비치는 소소 하는 거랑 이럴 때는 마 다다 내가 대사 더 내가 감지해 나 내가 가르쳐 야 마저 좀 대사도 대사 가면 제가 야 마마 좀 왔다 안 줘요 그 밥을 줘요 아마 딱 빨리 나 보고 거야 보면서 빨리 달편에 저보고 보면서 저기 동네는 알이야 사티하고 맞춰서 왜 무슨 왜 제사 되겠어 이 소소소소 다다 내중에서 소소 다 시는 거야 대다도 가만 쳐서 다 들으래 대다도 가만 하고서 저는 스마트 같은 내가 지금 다 마음을 솔직하게 지고 따라가고 좋아 동일 쪽으로 역하는 역한 아무것도 없어요. 딱히 보너스 아무것도 마법 같은 거 너무 많이 문제도 보니까
So when the Buddha gave an introduction to this, he said that each sentient being should look at your own suffering that you are experiencing. If you would like to know what you have been in your past life, look at your body now, look at your life now. If somebody knows karma, then you can, if you're somebody who knows karma, then you can investigate and you think, so this life I have a little bit of happiness, I'm quite wealthy, and I have some money, so what could be the cause of that? The cause of that is that in the last life we have been generous or made many offerings. Or we think, oh, in this life, whoever I come together with, all my relationships just don't work out. They are never harmonious. A result that is the result of in a previous life having accumulated sexual misconduct. So we can look very clearly. If you know karma, we can look very clearly at the present situation that we are in, and then see what we have done, what we have been in our past life. So if you want to know what you have been in your past, look at what you have now. And if you want to know what you will be in the future, look at your present actions. So if you know if you know karma, then you know which causes will bring about which results. So you think about those over and over again, and you will know, observing your own actions, what a future incarnation will be like. But if one does not understand that, if one does not think about that, then also one will not be able to recognize one's afflictive emotions.
계단다고 뒷방에 좁았다고 같았네 해서 요바 비용증 계단 너무 높아는 지금 계단에 별로 계단을 해서 안 되는 거 소주바래 소주를 내리 가르치를 오는 게 소주바는 도착을 소지 봐요 그래 별로 생지 소자상 차도 통도 보다 빠빠 진지로 나타나지 내가 되는 소재 필요를 했어. 내가 되는 차로 오는 소재 필요를 했어. 야, 저쪽 변수 가서 막아 파텔라 좀 받았지. 원래 차로 오는 걸 소재 필요를 했어. 야, 나는 뭐 예쁜 건데. 그러니까 어쨌든 좀 많이 봐 소재 필요를 했어. 소재 뭐 답을 주는 유목 독선 똑만 본 변화를 소재 받는 다음에 나만 다 쳐요. 별세 기적을 소재 받았다나? 내가 소재 받아야 이 폭파세요. 폭파세요. 다 이거는 나만 됐어. 역시 세고 가지고 소성. 말서 안 좋은 상황이에요. 내가 조사를 시작하다가 속차를 해서 받더라. 소리 남자 되고 생남자 시고를 생남자를 시고를 신고를 다 빼는 거다리 이 강하게 소지 받겠다 야 노차 자사를 소지는 대나 기타가 우리 파사를 해 마음 걸 이장 방고 다 쳤어요 그다음에 샤사와라 한제다 좀 됐어 봐라 샤사들라더니 나빠 나서를 했어 팔찌와는 또 야가 막 호두가 철수로 다 파사를 코로 홀로 다들이 그거 싸는 요리 때는 소고기 받아가 다 들리게 해서
And from within the 10 non-virtuous actions, anger is the worst negative action. It is said that there is no worse action than anger, and there is no greater asceticism than patience. Also from within the 5 negative emotions, afflictive emotions, the 5 poisons, the worst of them is anger. And then depending on anger, for example, we kill. There's different types of killing. For example, if we kill out of attachment, then we kill because we want the other's flesh, or we want the blood, we want the skin, or we want the hair, the fur. So we kill out of attachment. Then others kill out of jealousy, through not liking each other. They kill. Then others kill out of anger. One is killed at an untimely time without any independence. So even within killing, there is many different types of killing, motivated by the 3 or 5 other afflictive emotions. So if one does not know karma, for example, one kills a being and then one has killed that person or that being and then thinks, oh, now I have accomplished my goal, that's fine, I've accomplished what I wanted to do. But then that person dies, karma will come back, and it is said that for each time one kills, one will be killed, one will have to die in that way for 500 times. So whatever out of circumstance it may be, jealousy or attachment and so forth, we are killing. And when we are killing, then in the future life that will come back. For example, now when we are eating meat, there's many different reasons why we are eating meat, but mostly it is that in last life those have eaten us and now we eat them in this life. So this circle continuously turns. In last life one has been eaten, in the next life one is eaten in return. So that is an example of killing.
저기 양자랑 나왔죠. 좀 주저들어라. 이 시발 좀 뭐만 좀 제발 좀 주기나. 양그 뭐만 좀 집에 돌아오지 와서 집에 사회에 올라와. 대신 내가 집 와라. 뭐좀 그러니까 생기 속에 되는 게 사상으로 와. 자다시로. 다 너무하지. 돌아오지 와서 집에 사회에 올라와. 대신 빠져. 저가지고 너무하지. 양자를 양나왔지. 양자를 집사. 사람이 없을 때 이런 것보다는 너무 그거 좀 중요해져서.
So when we think about all those afflictive emotions, each one by one, when we think about, for example, the emotion of anger, it will lead to be reborn in the hell realms as a fruitional result, where we will have to be killed over and over again for many aeons. For many years, we will stay in the hell realms. As a result of anger, we will be reborn in the hot hells. So Rinpoche asked you can read about those in details in the scriptures. So we are reborn in the hot hells as a result of anger. Now, when we now analyze our mind, do I have anger in my mind? We will see, we probably will find anger in our mind. Then we should think that, if I have anger in my mind, there is no doubt that I will be reborn in the hell realm, because anger, if one has anger, it leads to be reborn in the hell realm. So there is no doubt. So therefore, I quickly must abandon anger. So that is the fruitional result of anger. We are reborn in the hell realms. And after we have exhausted those karmic results, the fruitional result, then we come to the next one, which is called the result which corresponds to the cause. That is when we again take another incarnation outside the hells. For example, small children, they're very angry. Suddenly, for no reason, they get very angry. Again, they get very angry. The root of this is self-grasping. Now this will lead to be reborn even if one attains an incarnation outside the hells, for example as a flesh-eating animal like a tiger or a leopard. One again takes an incarnation where one has the tendency to eat flesh and to drink blood. Again, one will have to enjoy flesh and blood. So there is the cause, which or the result which corresponds to the cause in terms of action. That means in that incarnation again we will perform the same actions. We will have a likening to again perform those same negative actions, like eating flesh and drinking blood. And then there is the one that we need to, the result that corresponds to the cause that we need to experience. Again, we will experience being reborn in the hell realms without any liberation. So as a fruitional result, one will be reborn in the hell realms, and as a result that corresponds to the cause, we will have an affinity to again do those actions, or again be of that inclination. So as a result of some other virtues that one has accumulated, even if one again takes a human body, gets an incarnation as a human body, then one is maybe a very angry human person. One is very angry, and one is always fighting with others, and one never is harmonious with friends. So one has to experience really inconceivable sufferings. And until we have completely exhausted all the causes, the seeds of anger, again we will have to experience those sufferings until we completely have eradicated all its causes. Then, for example, even if one takes an incarnation again after that exhaustion, then we can see in many small children, they are very angry. Their nature is their character is very angry. And then if they are angry, anger leads to jealousy. So in this way, all the afflictive emotions are present. And if we gain a human incarnation through the power of virtuous actions, then we may, through the power of virtue, meet with a spiritual guide, with spiritual friends, and through the power of an aspirational prayer, again we'll obtain a human incarnation. But as a frictional result, but until the defilements, the afflictive emotions are not completely exhausted, again, over and over again, we will experience those results that also correspond to the causes. So these were the first two types of results, the frictional result and the result that corresponds to the cause. Then the third one is called the determining result. That is, we taking rebirth over and over again without any independence at a certain place. For example, now when we see in this world, there is countries that are very peaceful, and there's countries where there is always war and where there is not much peace. So when one reaches this result, as a result of one's negative actions of anger, one will be reborn in a place with many wars and fights, and a place that is not very peaceful. And again, in that place one will be angry, and one will start fighting with others, and one will again start killing others and accumulate those actions. That is the third type of result. And then the fourth type of result is called the proliferating result. That means if we are accumulating, like we have said, one action of killing, that multiplies into 500 times of receiving that in return. So that proliferating result multiplies the actions that we have accumulated. So we should think about those four types of results over and over again, and they should arouse fear of afflictive emotions in our mind. Because if we do not know about them, if we do not contemplate them, then also we will not have any fear of those afflictive emotions in our minds. And as a result of stinginess, one will be reborn in the realm of the hungry spirits. But now let's look at the afflictive emotion of anger one more time. It is the nature of anger. When one looks closely at the nature of anger, at that afflictive emotion, it is something that in an instant, as soon as it arises in somebody's mind, in an instant it will bring about suffering. When we see somebody, for example, that is usually, we think, very like a beautiful person with a very nice face, but when that person gets angry, then that whole face transforms, and we look at the person and it looks very ugly, that angry facial expression. So that is done by anger. The nature of anger is that it will make other people unhappy. Whoever sees a person who is angry or an angry facial expression will not like it. And that person who is angry sees everybody like an enemy, saying, I don't like this person and I don't like that person, and so forth. And not liking anybody, everybody will become just like an enemy. And if others look at that person, they will see, oh, that person has such an angry and ugly facial expression. And if a person who has understanding of this, like has strong love in his or her mind, sees a person that has great anger, we're saying, oh, that is the cause for being reborn in the hell realms. It is really the fault of afflictive emotion of anger. Through the power of anger, we will make everybody feel unhappy. If somebody enters somewhere, comes inside who is very angry, everybody would have a feeling, everybody would feel that. It would make people very unpleasant. So anger is harmful to others and it creates suffering for oneself. It is the cause for being reborn in the hell realms. So we need to look at the nature of anger and over again and again contemplate its faults.
这有个大的单位是这不是个种茶的，这个是吧？现在就就这个这些。哦，别人一大就或者前几年，啊，这个人的结婚，到了这啊，找我这个结婚是吧？一般抽这个我亲戚我，这马当是吧？这个其他都吃了吧？你通上那通讲讲一个不是，这场就上路上，这场就大学现场的女生了吧？哦，他这种的出品的吧，这容易在波上去，那个是吧？哦，他这种的多少的，平常出品是吧？其实咱中国没啥，身上不用紧，差不多了啊。马公的姐啊。
So depending on attachment, stinginess will arise, and depending on stinginess, we will be reborn as a hungry spirit. If we do not have any stinginess, and if we only have strong attachment, if we are only attached to things, but if we are not very stingy, then we will be reborn in the human realm. And if we are having attachment and we are very jealous, then we will be reborn in the jealous God realm, where there is constant fighting. And as a result of stinginess, one will be reborn as a hungry spirit. So, now, what is the nature of a hungry spirit? What is the nature of the suffering of stinginess? So the children may ask questions, how is it like having a very narrow throat or having a very big stomach? So this is the actual nature of mind. This is how we need to understand the nature of stinginess. For example, as a result corresponding to the cause, one also can again attain a rebirth like as a little insect. A little insect that bites one in the skin and is like thin, like a little thread, and bites one in the skin and drinks one's blood, and then just has to die because it's too full of blood. So that is like corresponds a result that corresponds to the cause that leads to be reborn as an insect, but still with that mind of stinginess, like a hungry spirit. So we need to look at the nature of that afflictive emotion, the nature of stinginess. So we can also see that nature of it in the human realm. For example, a human person who has millions of dollars and still thinks, oh, I need more, I still need more, I still have not enough, has that thought of poverty, that thinking that I have nothing, I will have nothing. That is the nature of stinginess, or the nature of a hungry spirit. So when our physical form, our body has died, still the mind has not died. And as a result of stinginess, that will take a rebirth in the realm of the hungry spirits. Or if afflictive emotion of ignorance is overpowering, one takes on the form of an animal, where one also has that, and one has the aspect of stinginess, then one takes the rebirth with a very large body and experiences great suffering. So actually, real hungry spirits, they have no body, they have no form, but we are now looking at the nature of the mind, the nature of the mind of stinginess. Now, for example, we can see that in ourselves thinking, I need more shoes, or I need more clothes. We always need more, and we don't want to give anything away. We want to get more, and we want to not give anything of that away. And even when we die, we still think, oh, I have those things, I have this money, I have all those possessions, and then self-grasping becomes very strong, but those things are not here anymore. So this is the nature of stinginess. Look at the nature. However much one has, one will not be satisfied. It is never enough. That is the fault of stinginess. So when you contemplate that over and over again, you may recognize the nature of stinginess. The nature is non-satisfaction. However much one has, it is never enough. Oh yeah, continue. So ignorance is always accompanied by the faults of the other afflictive emotions. For example, we have strong attachment. Some people are attached to their houses, some are attached to their clothes or attached to any other things. When we, for example, always are attached to beautiful clothes, then as a result we will be reborn as like a butterfly who has their wings with really beautiful like drawings, like a really beautifully adorned. Or if we are very attached to our houses, then we will be reborn as, for example, a shell that is always carrying the house with together with like a snail. We can see little animals who always carry their house with them wherever they go. So you can observe the animal realm and see the variety of afflictive emotions that there are and the variety of outcomes of those afflictive emotions. If you examine each animal one by one, you see they all have a subtle difference in their outcome. So there is a great subtlety in karmic outcome. So if you then apply that to your own mind and investigate your own mind and watch your own mind, those afflictive emotions you will also recognize in your own mind, and then you need to purify your mind from them. or for example, a peacock who has this beautiful the feathers, which have their pictures inside the feathers, and it looks very beautiful and majestic. That is also an attachment of previously maybe having too much attachment to beautiful clothing. Still, the peacock has the feeling of, I'm wearing something really beautiful. I'm very my dress is very beautiful. So one is creating one's own karma.
맞아라 때문에 이모가 걱정이 맞아 때서 또 참아 사회를 보는데 그렇게 이제 맞죠 보통 사회를 째는데 그래 맞아 지는 사회를 째요 그 사회를 째지로 봐요 이래요 사회나 농해요 같이 사회는 사고 빠지기 좋아요 거래 사람 사건들이 보통은 중에 저당 마음도 소나고 시점에는 인지가 체크지 기스 나버리면 매일라 맞게 지금은 다 보통은 중에 자 보통은
잠깐만요.
나버리면 맞게가 다 자주 실내 사람들은 보상 혹시 사람들이 저기 오지 자요 계산은 어떤 옵션 가지고 갖고 그리고 야와 제도 이다리 제도 요한한 좀 틀어다가 느끼기입니다. 그 지간에 좀 동의 치고서 대부분 거를 로아를 좀 동의되고 가서 소리가 아니고 이용과 가려고 다 뒤에 보내서 제 양반하고 얘기해서 뭐해 그 동심으로라
And depending on pride, we will be reborn in the God realm. Some think, I will be generous, and it's okay if I will be reborn in the God realm. Of course, in the God realm, we are experiencing great happiness and abundance of enjoyments. But still, there is suffering to be found in the God realms. First of all, there is some poor gods. And then secondly, the special feature of God suffering is that they suffer the suffering of change and the suffering of falling into the lower realms. They are experiencing a long life of great happiness, but then suddenly that changes and they undergo the suffering of change when they hear that they are going to die. They are dying within a duration of 7 God days. And at that time, it is determined whether they will fall into hell realms or hungry spirit realms. So there is great suffering, but you can read about those in great detail in the scriptures. You can read very clearly about each of the afflictive emotions and then apply accordingly their antidotes. So over and over, again and again, remind yourselves of them. This is really very important.
사지 좀 얘기했더니 총부부터 지어지더라. 총부부 지어지네. 네, 사마제고. 총부부 그렇게 지어. 총부부를 그렇게네. 공장들은 노을래고 저기는 거구나. 네, 아마 공만 아마라. 아마를 처음하고 그런 집들이 공 말을 쳐봤자 많이 보여요. 하다지 아무나 보도되더니 담는 소리고 저시 시송으로 시송은 야와를 계속으로 야와를 계속 야와 따져 보러 이제 많이 보러 똑같이가 마 동료들이 그리고 따져 보러 야와 따져 보러 계속 그 야와 따져 보러 계속 가면 공부 다 사족 상태에서 요가 진행을 오치고 지금 이 정말 오래 딱 보고 되게 같은 인터뷰를 그리고 야한테 또 신기도 나 당시 이제 또 동의 이제 당시 타고 가는 거 보고서 다 보는 나타나서 굉장히 다성적으로
자기 거를 갖다 놔두기.
예, 딱 보고 저도 감리고 딱 보고 속했지. 뭐 말아서 내가 속을 때 그거를 그러니까 힘이요. 전체만 걸고 딱 바로 나사지 요르바. 근데 참아 깨야 그거를 들이 내 공통의 이가 담겨 밀리다 인지에서 이빙을 얻지 마사. 그리고 자기 보는 나타나파. 이 나중에 이런 부분이 지금 내가 잘 모르고 이빙을 얻지 대바타지 타수는 산속은 이게 뭐지? 이빙을 얻지 그냥 대다 편기로 해서 간지 동문제가 나타나는 간지 동문제 내 나쁘지와 남자마다 그지와 남자 이유가 이거
Matapechiwa.
아마 좀 진정되는 속기는 주시 공양을 기회가
And there have been stories from the previous incarnations of the Buddha before he attained enlightenment of how an instant of bodhicitta, love and compassion can benefit beings even if one is reborn in one of the three lower realms. Depending on a karma, an action that the Buddha has created in a previous life before he was the Buddha, he was reborn in the hell realm. Before he was reborn in the hell realm, he was like a trader, and he was about to go out on the ocean with a ship and his mother to get jewels, and his mother told him not to go with the ship because he might die, the ship may sink. And then he started fighting with the mother, and he beat the mother on the head, and he left and he went to the ship, and the ship actually really sank. It went down, and then after he died, he was reborn in the hell realm. And because he was, as a result of hitting his mother on the head in the hell realm, he was reborn having like an iron wheel on his head, which was churning and burning and creating great pain in his brains. So he was experiencing this suffering, and he was accompanied by many other sentient beings who had to experience the same suffering. And because he had some bodhicitta and the wish to benefit others, he heard the cries and saw the suffering of other sentient beings, and he had compassion. Compassion arose in his mind, and he thought, oh, may I be their representative, may the suffering, may I experience their suffering, and may they be liberated. And then in that instant, he was liberated. That wheel of the iron wheel flew into the sky, into space, and instantaneously he was liberated. So this is to show that even an instant of bodhicitta can be of great benefit. This was one story of, there have been stories of the Buddha having 500 impure previous rebirths and 500 pure rebirths.
신스도 받는 세미대로 건도 나오냐 봐도 세미대로 건도 다음에 봐 하고 얘 맞도라 나 나사비나 얘를 신스도 봐 신스도 봐 나는 지금 차단도 봐요 그러나 얘는 유목을 봐 나는 차단도 봤다 그러나 유목을 봐 유목을 내서 하려고 하더라 내 도와를 놓고서 너무 좋아하는 게 나오니까 그거도 내도 봤더니 나를 믿어합니다. 무슨 잘 신스도 유목을 봐 내도 봐 박차도 봐 박차를 나를 믿으니까 노화를 놓고서 믿는 박차 박차도 박차 또 박차고 무슨 좋아하는 차이라
So in brief, we have obscurations and negativities. And what is it that is obscured? It is the nature of our mind that is obscured. We have 4 obscurations. First of all, the obscurations to recognizing the nature of the mind. We